Before we start this video, a large thank you to Demir, Raphael, Sunghung, Sheridan, Leonard, Cappy, and Alexandris for their support on Patreon. I hope you guys enjoy the video. And an immense thank you to Halo Burner and James for their continued support to the channel this month on Patreon. It is greatly appreciated, gentlemen, and I hope you enjoy the video. Hello everybody, before we start today's topic, as the gentleman pointed out, I forgot to check if the boss is defeated when I reactivate the character from the beacon. So go to your AI character manager and make these virtual voids for activate and deactivate, and simply override the activation function on the boss manager and just check to see if the boss has been defeated. If the boss has been defeated, just simply deactivate the character and return. So up here, just going to do a check. If it's not is defeated, it's going to be has been defeated. Top value, we're going to simply deactivate the AI character, pass the player again, and then we're going to simply return. Okay, so the topic of today's video is dodging that has been requested by Patreon, and we're going to cover different forms and ways to do a dodge on an AI character. So when it comes to dodging projectiles, I'll talk more about that at the end of the video, and I'll tell you what I would do, but why also I wouldn't do it. So let's go over first and let's copy a variable or our variable set for blocking, and let's rename it to evasion or dodge or whatever you want to call it. So again, just to know, this will work too for projectiles if you want to not do a distance check for anything that's very fast. But for slow moving projectiles, again, I'll tell you what I would do at the end of the video, but then I'll tell you why I wouldn't really want to do it or put it in my game personally. But options there if you want to do it. Obviously, it's your game, do whatever you want. So we're going to make a bool for can evade, percentage of the time will evade, has rolled for evasion chance, and will evade during this combat rotation. And as a lot of you probably guessed now, we're just going to copy what we do for block, and we're going to basically roll for an evasion chance. And this is if you want to do evasion by chance. If you want to always have an enemy that will evade, which will be very annoying, then just go ahead and do it every time they hit the combat stand state, and check if the player is attacking, basically. But we'll get to that in a moment. So if can evade and has not rolled for evasion chance, has rolled for evasion chance is equal to true, and then will evade during this combat rotation is equal to roll for outcome chance, percentage of the time will evade. Okay, so we have the roll done. Now what do we do when we actually get the evasion? Well, we're going to say if will evade during this combat rotation and has not, and the AI character .combat manager .current target .character network manager .is attacking .value. So if we will evade during this combat rotation and our target is attacking, we're going to simply do AI character combat manager perform evasion, which doesn't exist yet. We're going to make that in a moment. So we also might want to check for if we've already evaded once this rotation. So we will only evade once. You don't have to, but I'm going to do that in a moment. And also on our reset state flags, we're going to say has rolled for evasion chance is equal to false. So to make it so we only evade once per combat stance rotation, we can come up here and say under evasion, we can do something like has already evaded. So I'm going to make a private void because we don't need, private bool because we don't need to see this. Has evaded is equal to false. Likewise too, we need to reset this on the end, and we want to check for if we have not already evaded. So if and has not evaded, and then we can perform the evasion, and then we can say has evaded is equal to true. And if you're calling it dodge, just say has dodged, has rolled, whatever you want to say. I'm using the word evasion because it's very general. Some AI might dodge, some might backstep, some might kind of twirl away. So has evaded is equal to false on reset state flags. All right, very cool. Now let's go over and make this function. So we're going to go to AI character combat manager, and then we're going to make a public void perform evasion, or whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to move my combo functions up and make a new comment here for evasion. And we're going to say public void, virtual void actually, in case you want to make it different for different characters, perform evasion. So if you want to override this on your boss character combat manager and do something completely different, you absolutely can. Now, what do we want to do? Well, let's start with the very most simplified version of an evasion. We're going to set our character to invulnerable, and then we're going to make him play an animation. Now, if you don't want to just set him to invulnerable, what you can do is use animation events on your animation to make a window for it, just like our player. But for simplicity's sake and the sake of demonstration, I'm just going to make him invulnerable right here because our invulnerability will reset to false when the current animation action sequence is completed. I'm going to call the animation evade01. And just to show you what I mean in case you forgot, if we go to the animator and go to empty, you can see here we have reset action flag. And then you can see here, if I do is invulnerable, you can see it's always setting it to false when we come back to this empty state. So let's make the evasion animation state. And to do that, I'm simply going to use a backstep first. And I'm going to use this from the straight sort pack. And I'm just going to rename this to evade_01. And since I am setting is invulnerable to true via a function, I don't need to do it via animation events. But again, if you want to make it a window and not 100% invulnerability, use animation events just like our player. Entirely up to you. Now, I'm going to go to the world scene, and I'm aware that backstepping, I believe, it doesn't make you invulnerable in Souls or Elden Ring. At least I'm 99% sure it doesn't, but since this is for an AI, we're going to allow it to cheat. Now, I am going to go over my dummy, and I'm going to make him a knight instead of an undead. And then I'm going to make sure I go to his combat stand state, and I'm going to make sure that I'm setting up the proper ratios for dodging, which will be 100% of the times for demonstration, and it's not there because I forgot to save. So on tick can block also, unless you want that on, and dodging. And then I'm going to tick can evade here and just set it to 100 just for the demonstration of the video to make sure this is in fact working. And I am going to go back to the main menu scene real fast and save that. Now back over in the combat stand state, we're going to say, I meant to say will evade, not will block. I'm going to put a debug here for perform evasion just to make sure I can see when it's happening. Also delete your debug logs when you do builds of the game because they do cost a nice bit of memory. So we're going to say if current target is equal to null, return. If for whatever reason the target got destroyed right before we're about to do an evasion, that will throw us a null. So we're just going to do a return here. And we're going to say if distance is greater than 5, we're not going to do an evade because that will kind of silly. We're just going to say return. Again, if you want to check for projectiles, I will talk about that at the end. And let's just save that. And now let's go into the game. You can see here, boom, I'm doing a charged heavy. He evades away as I start my attack. And then he's going to run at me. I don't have any attacks on him right now, so I'm going to swing. He evades again. So he doesn't have any attacks just for testing purposes so I can actually hit him. If I run away again and I try to swing at him again, you can see, boom, he does the evasion. Cool. Looks pretty good to be honest. So I don't have pivots set up on this guy right now just because I didn't set them up. But we're going to do rolls next. And for rolls, you want to set up pivots at the end of the roll just so he turns around and faces you. So method 1, we're going to play a simple animation. Method 2, roll away from the target. So always away. Now, you could just get a direction by using the direction minus, the current target and then him, and then rolling in the opposite way of that direction. But since our character is always facing our target, we're just going to do minus AI character transfer not forward, which means the direction is behind wherever the AI character is currently facing. Both ways are valid. Make sure you set the direction to dodge.y is equal to 0 and normalize it. You don't need to do y equaling 0 if your y is already 0 by default, but just in case. For example, if you're doing it by direction in respect to the target and the character and then getting the direction that way, and the target is higher than the character, then you want to set your y to 0 for sure. Now, optionally, you could do a coroutine here and do this rotation over time, but just apply that rotation to the character. If you want to do it on a coroutine, it will kind of smooth it out. It might look a little bit better, say over like 0.2 to 1 seconds. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make it instantaneous. I think it looks all right. So I'm going to save this now. I'm going to go to the game and boom, you can see here, he rolls away in the opposite direction. But you can see I don't have pivots set up on him, so you should definitely set up pivots on your character. I had it on the zombie, but not this guy, because he does this little thing where he kind of circles around instead of just stopping and pivoting to face you. But very good. It works as intended. Now, what if you want the character to roll in a random direction and not always behind themselves? We can do this too, and it's very, very simple. We're going to utilize something called random.unitSphere, I believe it is. So, method 3, AI chooses a random direction and rolls towards it. Let's copy and paste all of our old logic. So I'm just going to paste this here, and we're going to uncomment all of it, and we're going to adjust some of it right now to fit this use case. And I am going to change direction to dodge from this to random dot, what is it, unit, or inside unit sphere dot normalized. Now I am going to set the y to 0 on this one because it will get a random point in a sphere, which could be up or down. And now if I come in here and there you go, boom, he kind of rolled like to the right of me that time. And if I do this now, he just rolled to the left of me. So you can see it's completely in a random position. So what unit sphere does is it gets a sphere and picks a random point inside of it. And then we're just getting a direction based on that point, and we're making sure the point is never a position where it's up or down. So we're rotating towards that point and then playing the roll animation. And that looks really good, honestly, and it adds a bit of chaos to it. Now, finally, what if you want to use a blend tree? So if you have the straight sort pack recently, I think a few weeks ago, I updated it so we have a blend tree capability for rolls. When I say this, I have omni-directional rolling, so forward, left, left, back left, back right, etc. It looks kind of like this. So if you want to use this, what you could do, very simply, is basically assign the network vertical and horizontal animator values and your regular animator values to whatever value you want, and then just play the animation and set the roll up as a blend tree like I've done here in Nephilim, and it will work. So I won't go over that in the video. That's something you can try on your own, very easy to do. And all you want to do, I can write in the comments, is use a blend tree, and you want to set the network, horizontal, and vertical values, and then set your animator values, and then simply play the animation, and the animator will take care of the rest. Or, optionally, you could even let the vertical and horizontal values be determined from your strafing if your character is doing a strafe while they're entering a roll. Pretty cool. So I could definitely go over more variations of this, but I think that is definitely enough. If you guys want to see anything else in specific, just please let me know. I hope you learned something. Now, before we end the video, let's talk about what I would do with projectiles if I was going to do it in my game, but also why I would not. So as it stands right now, this code will work with projectiles if you're within 5 meters of the target. If you want to get rid of that 5 meter check and do a check for if the character is attacking with, say, a ranged projectile or a spell, you can do that, and that would work fine too. So if the character is attacking with an arrow, for example, and you're performing that check for if is shooting with an arrow, since the arrow is so fast, the character will dodge it most of the time. The same is true with a fast spell, because if they're invulnerable for the whole animation, the animation takes at least, a second and a half to complete, so by the time the arrow or the projectile arrives at them, they're still doing the dodge, and this is fine. However, a slower projectile will get there over time, and then usually if they dodge immediately when the character is casting a spell, what happens is they'll end their roll and then get struck by the projectile. This actually happens sometimes in Elden Ring too, with some slower moving spells. So there is a way to adjust for this, and here's what I would do. And after I explain what I would do, I'll explain why I would never do it in a game. What you want to do is set up a sphere collider on an AI and make it so its collision layers only interact with projectiles and damage colliders. And then what you want to do is basically make it a trigger and check for when a collider on these projectiles hits the trigger. Then you will toggle a flag on your combat manager saying projectile has passed threshold or is in range of striking, whatever you want to call it. Basically, you're just going to make a flag that dictates, hey, a projectile passed this trigger. And then on your combat stance state, if you're basically going to perform an evasion, then you just check for that flag, and if that flag is true, you always perform the evasion regardless. So why I wouldn't do that is because it kind of isn't fun to shoot a projectile at a character and have them dodge it when it's moving at them so slowly a lot of the time. At least I don't find it fun. I almost always play a melee build in Souls games, but in Elden Ring, when I did play a bunch of builds, when I eventually got to a caster, and I would shoot projectiles at an AI, like a boss specifically, and they would just keep dodging over and over and over again. It just wasn't a fan of it personally. It wasn't fun. So maybe your game will be fun if you want to do it that way. That's just how I would do it. And if you are still confused with what I'm trying to say, take a minute, listen to it again, and make an attempt. And if for some reason you're still lost, just comment below, and I will make a blocking part 2 where I specifically go over a few designs of how I would make the character dodge projectiles accurately. Okay guys, thank you very much once again for joining me. I do hope you have a very lovely weekend, and I would like to extend my gratitude to all the people who like and comment on these videos and share it by word of mouth, and also to my patrons who continue to support the series. It is because of each and every one of you the series may continue, and the series is what it is today. So you have my sincerest thanks. I will see you guys next week.